Hello, my name is David Nguyen, and I am a technical marketing engineer with Cisco Server Switching and Virtualization Product Group. This video is part of a series that is intended to show some of the unique advantages made possible by Cisco Server offering called the Unified Computing System, or UCS for short. This video will show the viewer the details of Vlan organization and how customers can best use this feature. This video is broken down into two parts. The first part of this video, we'll go over a few slides to provide a brief overview of this feature, what we're trying to solve, and how this feature works, followed by a real-life demonstration of the feature. Before we dive into the feature, the UCS users will need to have an understanding about UCS organization and roles as the Vlan org feature builds off of it. If you are unfamiliar with it, I provided a link for your review. It is important to have VLAN policy because if one is not in place, it can lead to a scenario where all VLANs become available to all organizations, even though the organizations do not require all the VLANs, which is okay, but not the most optimal. Another possible scenario is that organization using the same VLANs, which is more of a concern for many reasons, such as it can have implications to application performance, or become a security concerns where you don't want an engineering or financing using or sharing public VLANs. The traditional method, while may not be the most elegant, is managing through by adding additional I/O modules and or adapter cards and pinning the VLANs to the specific components. For added insurance, VLANs can be pruned at the network layer to ensure VLANs are contained. UCS have the concepts of organizations and policies where each policies are restricted within an organization. This concept has been extended to VLANs called VLAN org aware, such that each organization can only have access to a set of VLANs. The organizations cannot go outside of those set of VLANs. Going back to our diagram where we have 4 organizations, the root administrator can create a allowable set of VLANs for each organization. In this case, 250 VLANs for each organization. One thing to note, while in my VLAN structure, the VLANs do not overlap between the organizations. It is possible to have VLANs overlap between orgs, but this is an unlikely scenario for the very reasons that had been described in the previous slides. So the configuration steps, we basically broken down to 2 different types of deployment scenario. The first one is Greenfield Deployment. And basically Greenfield is meaning that you're just bringing up a new UCS system. And the steps that you need to do is basically plan for VLAN structure, enable org-aware VLAN feature, create orgs, and configure the default VLAN permission. Default VLAN permission is basically a UCS best practice is to always create a VLAN permission in the root org. This will restrict access for all orgs to the list of VLANs that have permissions or group permissions configured. Then you want to enable VLAN org permission feature and verify the configuration. In a brownfield deployment, meaning that you already have an existing UCS that's up and running and you want to enable this feature, the steps are basically plan VLAN structure, configure a default VLAN permission, configure VLAN permission and group permission, verify configuration, and enable VLAN org permission feature. Next, let's go to our next part of the video, which is our demo. And I have a UCS system here for us. And I already defined 4 sub-organizations: App Dev, Finance, HR, and Web. I also have defined 21 VLANs, which I'm going to make available to these App Dev, or I'm going to slice it up to each of these organizations. Alright, so the first 21. So the first thing that we want to do is have a default VLAN permission, which was going to be VLAN 1. And I'm going to assign it to root and click OK. I got this pop-up warning message, and basically this is telling me is that I have yet to enable the VLAN org feature under the global policy. So it's just a warning message, and we're just going to ignore it for now. And you're going to see why, or what's the significance of enabling it. Now, to help simplify my management, I basically did VLAN groups. VLAN groups is basically where you can define a set of VLANs and be represented by a single group name. So here I have a group name called Finance, and I have VLANs 2 through 6. That's going to be part of this Finance. HR is going to basically have VLANs 7 through 11. And then Web is going to basically have VLANs 12 through 16. Now, what I want to do is you can define, assign the VLAN organizations. And that's for Finance. I pick for Finance. And what this does is basically all the VLANs here will be part of the Finance. You can do this on a per VLAN basis, on a per VLAN, but it becomes a more of a management situation. So where now I just do it under group, and all those VLANs will inherit this. Right, so just to show you, to illustrate that, if I go into under VLAN, I can do this individually here. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and create the last one, which is app dev here. And I want 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Click finish. And app dev, make sure that it's part of it. And click OK. Okay, so if we go down to our policy, let's go down to our sub-organizations. Let's go to app dev real quick. And if we click on org permissions and accessible VLANs, you notice that all the VLANs are still available. Why is that? If you remember a warning at the beginning, it told us that we have yet to enable it under the global policy, org permissions. So let's go here, click save. Okay. Now if we go back to app dev, you notice now only VLANs default and 17 through 21 was only available to app dev. Okay, so VLANs 1 through 16 is not visible, so therefore I cannot configure anything under app devs, or 1 through 16 is not available for anything under app dev organizations. So one other thing I want to show you is what happens if you created another organization under a sub-organization. So let's say under finance I have accounting. Okay. Now, under accounting, let's say I have a new set of VLANs, and let's say VLAN 999. I assign it to accounting. Wonderful. So, what are you expecting under finance, right? Under finance, you only have VLANs 2 through 6, and you don't see anything under the 999. So let's go down and look at accounting now. Well, you notice that you have 2 through 6 and 999. One thing you have to keep in mind is in a nested or organizations where you have a child sub-organization under sub-organization, is that the child organization will always inherit from the parent. Okay, in this case, the child is the accounting and the parent is finance. So therefore, he will inherit all the policies that's be defined in finance. Okay, so in this case, default through 2 through 6 will become available to the child, and the permission is not reversed in the such that the finance will not inherit the child. So this is one thing that you should be aware of when you create multiple sub-organizations. In closing, you can see how this can be very useful by having a feature that is VLAN org aware. This will help structure VLANs and at the same time ensure that VLANs are only being used by certain organizations and help you comply policy regulations. This ends this UCS Advantage video where we show you how unique capabilities in the Cisco UCS can lead to simplified deployment models with much faster service turnaround to meet the increasing demands of the business. Please go to www.cisco.com /go/UCS for printed collateral, including a brochure that highlights the information shown in this video. Thank you.